All right, and welcome back. I hope you've all been doing well. In this video, we're going to cover hypervisors and virtual machines, more specifically VirtualBox, which is a Type 2 hypervisor, and what it is, how to install it, how to configure it, and how to use it. We're also going to talk briefly about why you may want to use a hypervisor to run a virtual machine. Now, a lot of you may already be fairly familiar with VirtualBox and or hypervisors slash virtual machines in general. So please understand that this video is geared toward new users and those who may not have dabbled much with the software. I'm going to break this video down into chapters. You can find those in the description below. And we're going to cover the installation of two operating systems, one being Arch Linux, the easy way, and the other being Windows 10. We're also going to cover a lot of ground, but I hope each of you get something out of this guide. And I do want to mention too that we are not going to dive into configuring USB compatibility nor setting up the sharing of files or anything of that nature. This is just a very basic introductory level guide on getting your feet wet with VirtualBox. All right, so with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into chapter 1. Okay, so here we're on chapter 1, and we're going to briefly cover the basics of hypervisors and virtual machines and why you may want to use one. All right, so what exactly is a hypervisor, a virtual machine, and all this quote-unquote stuff? Well, basically, in simple terms, a hypervisor is a piece of software that allows you to run a virtual machine on your existing computer, which would be your dedicated PC or laptop with all of your hardware and main operating system. Another way to look at it is, let's say you have Windows installed on your computer, but you want to check out Ubuntu because you're curious, you've heard all this talk about Linux and you want to know more, but you don't want to format your current system or mess around with dual booting, and maybe you don't want to use a live image boot on a thumb drive. By installing a hypervisor, you can run a virtual machine with Ubuntu on it. Basically, in this example, you're running Ubuntu on your Windows computer without having to modify, change, or really do anything with your main Windows installation, or whatever operating system you happen to be running at the time. Now, I do want to mention that while all this sounds great, you should be aware that running a virtual machine does come with some limitations. Typically, you're not going to have full access to your system resources, and some hypervisors like VirtualBox don't support something called GPU pass-through, which in simple terms allows your virtual machine to use your system's GPU. So if you want to use your virtual machine for GPU-intense tasks like rendering, video editing, or even gaming some AAA titles, VirtualBox may not be your best option. Now keep in mind there are some hypervisors out there that do support GPU pass-through, like VMware Workstation, I believe. Now on a side note, there was a time when Linux users could play games like Rainbow Six Siege on their Linux systems by using a virtual machine with GPU pass-through. But it seems that recently, at least according to Mutahar in one of his videos, the anti-cheats like BattlEye and Ricochet are now banning accounts that detect their games being played, or being hosted rather, on virtual machines, which is a shame. Now, I personally haven't bothered with this much since I only play two games that require kernel level anti-cheats, which are Call of Duty and Rainbow Six Siege. And I just use my Xbox for those games. And really, even if BattlEye and Ricochet did support Linux, I'm not really sure I want them having kernel level access to my machine anyway, but that's neither here nor there, so let's get back on track. Okay, so what's the point of using a virtual machine if you can't fully use your system resources or GPU? There's actually a lot of good reasons. For one, you can use it to test out different operating systems. So let's say, for example, that you're a Pop! OS user, but you want to check out Arch Linux. Hey, you can install a virtual machine with Arch Linux on it and play around with it to your heart's content. And you can do all this without having to do anything to your main system at all. There's also a bit of security. So you see, your virtual machine is a sandbox of sorts, meaning that anything you download or do in your virtual machine doesn't affect your main system. So if you are running Pop! OS on a virtual machine and you download some malware inadvertently, or if you're running an instance of Windows on a virtual machine and you download malware, that malware is contained to that virtual machine and does not spread to the rest of your system, to your main system. So you can break these as much as you want, and you simply go in and delete the virtual machine and create a new one, and you're up and running again. So there's a lot of uses for a virtual machine. I recommend that you do a little Googling around and for other uses. And maybe you already have a few in mind. Okay, so as mentioned, this video is covering VirtualBox. In my opinion, is one of the more user-friendly of the hypervisors out there. VirtualBox runs on an x86 architecture and is made and maintained by a company called Oracle, just in case you were wondering. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into chapter 2, which is the installation of VirtualBox. And I'm going to be using a VirtualBox for that, actually, unironically enough, because my main system already has it installed and everything is already configured the way I like it. So in fact, I'm going to use the Pop! OS install that we just did the video on for customizing and installing themes. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, so now we're ready for the setup and getting VirtualBox installed. So the first thing we want to do is get into our system here. And this is the, as I mentioned before in the previous chapter, this is the same virtual machine that we did the customization video on. So the first thing you want to do is, it's up to you, this is completely optional, is if you want to create a folder to hold your ISO files. So on my main computer, I actually do have a folder dedicated to virtual machines and the ISO files that I downloaded originally, and I keep them here in my virtual machines folder, Arch, Debian, Fedora, Gentoo, and so on and so forth. So if you want to create a folder somewhere on your machine to hold the ISO files, to sort of keep a library, a collection of them. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is go ahead and update our system. So open up your terminal and type in sudo apt update and sudo apt install, or sorry, upgrade. Hit enter and then put in your password. And we need to update, so we'll go ahead and do that real quick. And we're good to go. So now we can go ahead and clear this out. And we need to install VirtualBox. So very simple. Just type in sudo apt install VirtualBox, one word. Hit enter and then hit yes. And let it do its thing. Shouldn't take too terribly long. All right, so now we have VirtualBox installed. We can go ahead and exit out of our terminal. We are finished with that for now. So go ahead and type in exit and hit enter, close it out. Right, now that we have VirtualBox installed, we can go ahead and close out of this virtual machine, or I can at least, and I'm gonna open up my installation for the rest of the guide. So I'm gonna close this out and I will see you in chapter 3. All right, so now that we have VirtualBox installed, first thing we need to do before we open it is to download an ISO file. In this case, this chapter is focused on the installation of Arch Linux. So the first thing you want to do is open up a web browser and do a Google search for Arch Linux download. And it should be one of the first options, downloads -Arch Linux. Go ahead and click on that. And then we want to scroll down towards the bottom of the page. You'll see a collection of different countries. These are the mirrors, the sources for us to download the ISO file. So pick your country, wherever that may be. For me, it's going to be the United States, and then you can pick a mirror from the list. So I'm going to grab arizona.edu, and then you want to grab Arch Linux -2024, May 1st, the x86 64-bit ISO. So you simply click on it and it will download. Now I already have this downloaded, so I'm just going to go ahead and stop the download and close this out. Okay, now that the ISO file has been downloaded, if you want to take a moment or two and go ahead and move that to your folder for your ISO library, you can, or if you just want to leave it in the downloads folder, that's completely up to you. Once we have completed the installation, we are not going to need it anymore. So, all right, now we'll go ahead and open up VirtualBox. And the first thing we need to do is click on the new option. And we go ahead and name our machine. I'm going to name mine. I use Arch, by the way. And then we need to select the ISO image, wherever that's at. And oh, by the way, you might notice that as soon as you type the name of the distribution of the distro up here, it's going to automatically populate the version field as well. So if I were to go back and type Ubuntu, you can see how it changed it to Ubuntu 64-bit. But in our case, we're going with Arch. And then we need to select our ISO image, so wherever that is, that ISO file, and click Other. And I'll go back to my virtual machines. Actually, I need to go to my library. Virtual machines ISO, virtual machines, and Arch. And there we go. So click Open, and that should populate with the location of your ISO image. Then we're going to hit Next. Now, for your base memory, you can adjust this to whatever you desire. I'm going to crank mine up to the max, and CPUs, we'll go ahead and give it 16 out of 32. But again, this is completely up to you. If you do go into the red, or the I guess that's peach or pink or whatever, it can affect your performance. So try to keep it within the green. And next, I think 18 gigabytes should be plenty. So I'm going to put 18 gigabytes in there. Then we're going to hit Next. And then we're going to hit Finish. So now our machine's installed. But before we hit Start, we need to go to the settings. And you want to go to Display and crank up your video memory. If you want to enable 3D acceleration, you can. I typically don't, because I don't do anything in my virtual machines that requires anything that's graphically intense. So I'll just hit OK. And now we can go ahead and just start it up. And let me drag it over here from my second monitor. All right, so for Arch Linux, we'll go ahead and hit Enter. And it'll take a moment or two for it to start up. Welcome to Arch Linux, and it's going to boot up. All right, so now we are in. So the first thing we want to do is to synchronize our package database. So to do that, we're going to type in pacman, one word, a space, and then we're going to hit hyphen, capital S, and 2 lowercase y's, and then hit Enter. And the synchronization is done. So now we want to install the installer. So we'll type in pacman, hyphen, capital S, and a space, and then Arch Linux, or archinstall, and then hit Enter and proceed yes. And there we go, now we're installed. So now we can go ahead and just type in the word archinstall, hit Enter, and here we go. So now we can do our configurations in here. So Arch install language, it should be default to whatever language your main system is set to. Mine's English. So for mirrors, going down to mirrors and then hit Enter, and then hit Enter again for mirror region. So for me, it's United States. For you, pick your country, or pick the country that you want. Hit the space bar and then hit Enter. And then we want to go down to where it says back and then hit Enter again. So locales has already been defined. We don't need that. We do need disk configuration, so click on that. If you want to do manual partitioning, you can. I'm just going to use a best effort default partition layout and hit Enter. And then here you want to select the SSD or the hard drive that you want Arch installed to. I'm going to stick with ATA VBox hard disk, so just hit Enter on that. And I'm going to choose ext4 for the format. Now, disk encryption, you can turn this on if you want. This is just a virtual machine to play around with, so I personally don't see a need for it, but again, that's a personal choice. The bootloader, we'll leave it as grub. We'll leave the swap as true. The host name, you can change it if you want. I think I'm going to change mine to my younger Russian blue to junior. And then hit Enter. And we need a root password. So root password, we are going to put that in and then hit Enter. Mine's very weak. Again, this is a virtual machine, so I'm not too worried about security on it. Put in again a second time for verification and then hit Enter again. So we need a user account. So you want to hit Enter and then add a user and then put in the username. I'm just going to put in junior, hit Enter, and a password for junior. So or password for your username, and then put that in, hit enter, and then put it in again for verification purposes, and then hit enter again. And do we want Junior to be a super user to use sudo? And the answer is should be yes. So go ahead and hit yes, or select yes and then hit enter, and then come down to where it says confirm and exit. So our profile, go ahead and select profile, then hit type, or I'm sorry, select type and then hit enter. So you have desktop, minimal, server, and Xorg. We're going to go with desktop. And now you can pick the desktop environment that you want to use. So there's Cinnamon, there's Deepin, Enlightenment, GNOME, Hyperland, KDE, Mate, and XFCE4. I'm going to go with GNOME. Again, you can pick the one that you want. I like GNOME. And we want to go down to where it says back and then hit enter. All right, so I paused in the video here for a moment because I made an error. I wanted to edit this in so you had the information. But I skipped over audio, and you should select audio for the server. And I picked Pulse Audio. There are only two options for you there. So Pulse Audio is typically what most people go with. So go in there, select Pulse Audio, and then hit the back button, and then carry on with the rest of the setup. And kernels, Linux is fine. Additional packages, so go ahead and select that if you want. So here we can put in the different software applications that we want pre-installed with this installation. So I'm going to put in Gimp, put a space, Firefox, another space, and let's see, NeoFetch might be a good one. I can't think of anything else right now. So once you are finished putting in those applications, hit enter, and it's going to check to make sure they exist. Okay, now we are on our network configuration. I am hardwired, so I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to use manual configuration and add an interface, and I already have one there, the ENP0S3, so I'm going to hit enter again. And I'm on DHCP. I do not have a static IP, so I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to go down to where it says confirm and exit and hit enter again. And now we're on our time zone, so go ahead and hit enter on that, and then pick your appropriate time zone. Mine is United States Eastern. And additional repository. So you want to go ahead and select that and select multi-library. And now we're set. So we can go ahead and do the install. So go down where it says install and then hit enter. And then press enter to continue, hit enter again. And this is going to take quite a while. So, well, not quite a while. It's going to take a few minutes. So in the meantime, while we're waiting for this to finish, I'm going to put up a little video of some Dirt Rally 2.0 gameplay. So sit back and enjoy.
30. 6 left of a crest. To flat middle of a crest. 30. 4 left. Tightens 3. 50. Tarmac bridge into 3 right tightens. 30. Crest into 4 left long, tightens 2. 30. 6 right into 3 left long. 50 through grid. Tarmac 80. Flat middle of a long crest. 100. Turn cut square right. 50. Flat middle of a jump maybe to gravel. 50. 4 left long. Into 4 right, tightens over crest. Into 5 left long, opens 50. Bump maybe. 30. 6 left of a jumps. Into 4 right long, opens to tarmac, 5 left, very long, tightens, 120, gravel, flat middle of a crest and grid, 30, 4 right, very long of a crest, into 6 left, into 6 right, 30, 5 left, very long, tightens 4. To crest, into caution, 4 right long, tightens, into 2 left on cut. Into 3 right long, tightens 2. To crest, into 3 left, into 4 right, 30, turn square left, don't cut through narrow gate. 50. Flat middle of a crest, jump, 50. 5 left, into 5 right, into 5 left long, into 5 right long, continues, opens of a double crest, 30. 5 right of a dip and jump, into 5 left long of a crest, tightens 4. Into 6 right of a crest long, tightens 4 narrow. Into caution, 5 left long, tightens 2 of a crest.
All right, now that the installation is finished, you have the option to chroot back in to make any changes or adjustments. In my case, we don't need to do that, so we're going to go down and hit no. All right, so now we may reboot, but in this case, we do not want to reboot. We want to do a shutdown. So we're going to shut down and then space, shut down now, then hit enter. And it's going to shut our virtual machine completely down. And the reason that we're doing this is we need to remove the ISO file from the controller IDE. And the reason that this is very analogous to rebooting your computer, going into the BIOS, and then changing your boot sequence to read off of your live image. So we need to go into settings, and we need to go to storage, and then where it says Arch Linux 2024, right click on that and remove attachment. Hit remove and then hit OK. And now we can go ahead and start our virtual machine with Arch Linux. Hit enter. And it'll take a moment or two. Okay, so here we are. We're in Arch Linux. So let's go ahead and put in our password. Select your profile and then put in your password. And by the way, during that setup stage from before, you can put in multiple users if you have several people sharing the same computer. All right, so now we're in Arch Linux. So let's go ahead and do a system update. Go ahead and open up a terminal. And we're going to type in sudo. I think we need to type in sudo, do we? Or maybe it's just pacman. I don't remember off the top of my head because I'm not a main Arch user. Okay, so we need root. So we need sudo pacman, and then a space, a hyphen, capital S, and a Y and a U. And then put in our password. And nothing to update, so we're already up to date. All right, so we can go ahead and exit out. And you can see we have a GNOME desktop environment. So if you're familiar with GNOME, it should be fairly easy to navigate, but everything is here. Gimp is here that we requested be installed during the installation process. I think Neofix should be installed as well. Let's check it out. And it is. All right. So we have successfully created a virtual machine with Arch. So if you've ever wanted to try that, now you have a guide to help you out. And we'll go ahead and move on to chapter 4, which will be the Windows 10 installation. So I'll see you there. All right, so we're on our final chapter, and we're going to install Windows 10 in a virtual machine on our Pop! OS installation. And for you, if you're following along, whatever distro or that you're using. So the first thing we need to do is to get the ISO file. So we're going to open up a web browser, and in Google, you want to type in Windows 10 ISO download, and it should be the first option from Microsoft. So you want to click on that. And then we're going to scroll down a little bit, and it's going to say Windows 10 2023 update version 22H2 and select edition. So we're going to select the Windows 10 multi-edition ISO and then hit confirm. And it's going to validate our request. And now we need to select a language. So I'm going to choose English for the US. You pick the appropriate language for you. hit confirm, and we want to download the 64-bit version. So click on that and the download process will start. I'm going to stop it because I already have this downloaded in my ISO library. Now, the second thing that we're going to need is the VirtualBox Guest Edition collections. Otherwise, you won't be able to maximize your Windows screen when you are in your virtual machine. So to do that, we're going to go to archive.org/details/VirtualBox GA-collection. And I will put this in the in the description below, so you can just click on it from the video. And we want to go over to the right-hand side under Download Options and select ISO Image, and then scroll down to the bottom for the most recent, which is VBox Guest Editions 7.0.97. And then again, click on that, and it'll download. I've already downloaded it, so I'm not going to do that again. So we'll go ahead and minimize our window. Now we can open up VirtualBox, and we want to create a new machine. So these steps are going to be very similar to what we did with our archinstall last chapter. So we'll go ahead and hit New, and we will give it a name. We'll call it Windows. And then we'll select our ISO image. So go to Other for me, and I'm going to choose Windows 10 22H2 English, and then hit Open. And as you can see, the type and the version populated with Microsoft Windows and Windows 10 64-bit. So we'll hit Next. And the username, I'm just going to call this Rave, and the password, I'll put in a short password. Since this is a virtual machine, I'm not too terribly worried about security on it. And the host name is Windows. You can change that if you want. I do believe there's some conflict if the username and the host name are the same. But we do want to do one more thing here. We want to click on Guest Editions. And now that ISO file you downloaded from archive.org, go ahead and click on the down button, select Other, and then browse to wherever your guest editions are, and then select it, hit Open. And now we can hit Next. So again, as with Arch, as with the last chapter with the archinstall, select your base memory. I'm going to max mine out. And number of processors, we'll go with 16 again, and then we'll hit Next. Disk size, 50 gigabytes should be enough. Of course, it is Windows, so who knows. We'll hit Next, and then we'll hit Finish. And then we need to go into... Oh, Windows is starting up automatically, and it shouldn't be. Let's go ahead and close this out. Power off the machine. Because we need to go into our settings, and we need to go to display, and we know it's already cranked up. Okay. So we're at 128 megabits for video memory, and if you want to enable 3D acceleration, you can. I'm not going to, because I'm not going to be using it for anything graphically intense. So we'll go ahead and close this out. Now we can go ahead and start up Windows, or start up the virtual machine with Windows, and go through the installation process. So I may do a little editing here to sort of speed things up since the video is getting pretty long. Set up the starting. And we're copying files, so we'll go ahead and let this run for a few moments. And I'll go ahead and speed this up for time's sake. And we'll go ahead and restart once we're finished. And here we go. All right, so we're installing several packages, probably spyware and bloat. That's okay, it's a virtual machine.
Looking forward to spying on you and blue screening whenever you are doing something important.
And we're in. So guest editions should be active. there we go. All right. So now we're in full screen mode of Windows, and it's a full-fledged Windows install. You can see we have the calculator, calendar, all the typical stuff you get with Windows. And the only downfall, again, with VirtualBox is that you don't have full access to your GPU, so we're very limited on any type of graphically intense types of functions or use. So let's go ahead and open up Edge and check out YouTube, see how it runs in this virtual machine. All right. Oh. Let's see, YouTube. Let's do cat videos.
Oh.
Stop wrongly.
All right, so not terrible.
Switch to Chrome to load your favorite sites fast, so you can browse with ease. Fast?
So running at 1080p, it seems to be running pretty good. Decent frames. Well, kind of. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and close this out and wrap the video up. So I thank you all for watching, and I hope you've gotten something from this, and I hope that you give VirtualBox a try, or a virtual machine of your choice. Play around with it a little bit. Again, some of the benefits are that if you want to mess around with different operating systems without causing any damage or doing anything to your main system, a virtual machine is a perfect tool for that. So if you liked the video and you want to see more VirtualBox types of content, leave me a like, and that gives me some idea of where to go with the channel, working on some more content, more material. So thanks again, and stay safe out there, and have a good one.